Hi, Orange Girl here with another scrapbooking process video for you. I am working with Flair from A Flair for Buttons today, and this layout is up on their blog. Also, I am working with a kit from Paper Issues, the July scrapbook kit that's called Flyover States. And I love this circle paper by Pink Fresh Studio, and I thought it would be perfect for this layout. I took this photograph when we were out at a Mexican restaurant, local Mexican restaurant here in town, and it is a photo of um, the margarita glass, the wine glass, and then the little container of salsa, um, all sitting on the table there in front of me. And I posted it on Instagram and with the idea, well, with the title or whatever that said some of my favorite circles. And so as soon as I posted, I was like, oh, that would be a great title for a layout. And so I decided when this paper came in the mail, and I was like, oh wow, this will be perfect. I can use these all these circles and fussy cut them or whatever, and use them on a layout. Well, it turns out they're all sized perfectly for my punches. So what I did is I went ahead and I resized my photo and made a clipping mask in paper, not paper, paper on the brain, in Photoshop, to make the circle just under 3-inch circle, so that then I could use my 3-inch circle punch to give it a little bit of a white border around the outside. And now what I'm doing is I'm going through with all kinds of different sizes of paper of punches. This little itty bitty one that I got, I think like in the Michaels bin, where they have all the really small little punches. I also pulled some other paper out from the kit. I was thinking that I might add some stars to this page along with the circles. And the main reason that I'm going to do that is because also in the kit came some stars from Pretty Little Studio that match this paper perfectly. And so there was also a paper that has stars on it. And so I grabbed that paper and punched some holes out of that. So I'm using, I can't really remember. I know I'm using my 1-inch punch. I think my 1.5, that one's 1.5 inches. And then maybe a 2-inch punch. And then the only thing I think that's the 3 inches is the actual photo. And then my idea was just kind of go diagonal across the page. So I've cut out or punched out most of those circles. I do end up adding some more here in a minute, and I just kind of arrange them a little bit on the page in that diagonal fashion. And then I'm going through and finding some more circles. You'll see, like with that one right there, I didn't actually use a punch that would punch the whole circle out. Um, I punched it actually smaller. Like the circle might have been a 2-inch circle, but I used my 1-inch punch and just used the middle of that. The other thing is in some of the ephemera that comes in this kit, which is also from Pink Fresh Studio, there are some circles in there, and they are like this is an office themed kind of um, Pink Fresh Studio collection, but I'm using it completely not office related. I thought some of the clocks look like it's 5 o'clock, so I thought I was kind of playing off that theme a little bit, but I liked, or margarita time or whatever. And then I liked this paper. I thought I might cut some circles from that, but then I ended up not doing that. I liked it because it had polka dots on it. But anyway, I'm sorry, I'm kind of all over the place. I end up using this like 3 or 4 little circles from that paper, which is not Pink Fresh Studio. I forget what it is. Sorry. It's a like a 4th of July themed paper. I do remember that. Okay, so anyway, so this part's kind of boring because all I'm doing is just looking through all my stuff and trying to decide if what I can use for more circles. But um, anyway, once I kind of get an idea, so there's some more of that Pink Fresh. Once I get an idea of what I want to do with the circles, then I'm going to try to decide on what kind of border I want around the outside. And I started with this Pink Fresh paper, which has the blue because there is a lot of blue in my page. But I decided I really liked this yellow that I'm going to use here in a second better. And I think that yellow is Bella Boulevard, but I'm not sure. Anyway, so I end up using that as my kind of border around the outside of the page. So I'm going to cut off some of this white cardstock. The white cardstock did not come in the kit, but everything else here did except for a few alphas, I think, and then um, obviously the flare that I'm going to use. So you can't have a circle layout without using flare. So I went through some of my flare from the Flair for Buttons, and I pulled out the ones that are like in the same color families as what I have. I mean, there's so much color on this page, so pretty much anyone would work. But I found some that are multicolored that are the same colors as this collection and this kit. And I chose I pulled out a bunch of them, but then I ended up just choosing 3 for the layout. So now I decided that I was going to put a little bit of mixed media behind my page, and just like true honesty here and complete transparency. This is not my first attempt. First, I tried to do some mixed media behind it, like using like the packaging technique and adding quite a bit of color. And you may have seen this if you follow me on Instagram. In my stories, I posted a story where it showed my water, my paint water spilling all over the page that I was trying to work on. And that was when I was making this layout. So that page was completely ruined. It was completely soaked with water. And even after it dried, it just looked horrible. So I decided to just start over, and this time I decided to just go ahead and do splatters instead of going into any other kind of technique. And actually, I like the way this turned out much better, I think, than I would have had I done the full-blown mixed media on the background. So I went ahead and used my paper towels just to kind of blot some of that up so that I could go ahead and just get started putting this all back together. I will be honest that I did also take a photograph of this so that I could kind of look at where I put things before I took it off to do the painting behind it. I don't put it back exactly like that, but I get pretty close. And as I'm putting it together, I realize, and I do this multiple times actually, that I needed a few more circles. Some of it is because of colors, like I didn't have enough green, I felt like, so I wanted to add another piece that had some of that green in it. I also didn't feel like it was very well balanced color-wise, so I moved some of the circles around so that there are more, so like there's red at the top and at the bottom, and there's blue at the top and at the bottom. There's some that are uh, more white or lighter with a smaller print at the top and the bottom, that kind of thing. So just kind of trying to even it out, and I end up adding, moving things around and adding some more even toward the very, very end as well. So as I'm looking through this, I'm trying to, my decision making is mostly just about, do I have, like I said, do I have the colors balanced? Do I have enough or too many circles? Do I have enough small ones, different sizes, all that sort of thing? So I end up cutting a few more of these little ones or punching them out before I start gluing things down. Okay, so let's see what's next. Let me tell you a little bit more about the story. So oftentimes, and I don't know if this happens to you, but oftentimes as soon as I snap a picture or post something on Instagram, I know that that's going to end up being a story that I want to tell. And this might seem like a silly story to tell, but when I posted some of my favorite circles, I just thought that was kind of funny. But then also we go there a lot. This is, I mean, a big part of our life. And I don't mean like, um, drinking necessarily, although we do like margaritas and wine. I mean more like going to this specific restaurant is kind of a big deal. We know the people there. It's not that far from our house, so we go there often. The food is good. The margaritas are good. The people are kind. The service is good, and all of that. And so we go there a lot, and it's called La Cantina. So my journaling, which I type up, says, when I snapped this photo at La Cantina, it was clear that these are a few of my favorite things, ... or at least my favorite circles. And so I end up using that as my journaling. And so when I first started this page, I was thinking that I would either put, I wasn't exactly sure, but I figured obviously it makes sense on either side. So either put the title at the top or the bottom, top left or bottom right, and then the journaling on the opposite place. I also thought about putting it all on one side, but I end up going with opposites here. So, oh, one more thing that I end up doing, and I'm about to do that I think here in a second, is I start to glue down everything. I popped up several of the, like I popped up the photo, and then I popped up several of the circles throughout the page so that, I don't know, it just adds a little bit of dimension. But I also didn't want to do everyone because I wanted to do some stitching. So what I'm doing now, and I'm going to speed this up, is I'm just gluing down all of the pieces that I did not pop up. And then I will take off the ones that I pop up and take off the flare and run some of these circles through my sewing machine, because the reason that I take all the big stuff off when I do that is because if I want to sew through a circle that is right next to a piece of flare that I've already glued down, sometimes that's hard because there's some dimension there, and my machine, even though I'm not trying to go over that directly, it's just in the way. So I do this a lot where I get the majority of the stuff down and then I decide I want to do some stitching, so I take off the big items, or the not big, but the things with depth, you know, and zip this through my machine. So I am not going around in circles. I am actually using the lines that are on the circles because they're kind of like little pies or whatever. And there's a close-up. And I didn't do every circle. I did go zip all the way around the outside of the layout and put a little bit of funky stitching up in the upper right corner. And then I decided I needed just a few more circles. So I'm going to add a few more that I won't stitch through, that I'll just glue down. And then, as normal for me, I am also going to add some tangled thread to this layout. Now I realize that this is a little bit longer of a video than I usually do, and I'm going to say that part of the reason is because I kept in most of the punching of the circles, and I don't really know why I did that. A lot of times when I do fussy cutting, I cut out some of that so you don't have to watch the whole thing, but for some reason this time I just left in, and I hope that's okay, but maybe I shouldn't do that next time, I don't know. Anyway, so I'm going to add a little bit of blue thread, a little bit of yellow thread, and I do that because it just adds another little pop of color. I'm going to go ahead and put some orange thread underneath the flare button at the top and the bottom because there is some orange on this layout, but not a ton. So I thought it needed a little bit more orange. You can never go wrong with orange, in my opinion. And then I tried to put some behind this one, and I didn't like the orange because it's right next to that yellow thread, I think is why I didn't like it. I'm not sure. I wasn't sure that was why at first. So then I tried blue, and I also didn't like that. And then I end up just adding more yellow thread there, and I like that a lot better. It's just like an extension of the thread that I already had there, and I like that. It kind of makes it more cohesive, kind of makes it stick together a little bit better and look like it's supposed to be that way. So gluing all of that down, and then all I have left is my title. So the alphas that came in the kit were light blue, and I didn't want to use them. So I decided that I would use some of the other paper that's in the kit. There is a navy blue paper. It's actually several colors, but one of the colors in it is navy blue. And so I end up cutting the words favorite circles out of that pattern paper. And then because I wanted it to have a little bit more dimension, I do this a lot actually when I use pattern paper and my silhouette for a title. I went ahead and I cut it out on white cardstock as well. And then I'm just going to glue the blue over the top of the white. And I don't really care if it lines up perfectly or not. Doesn't bother me if you can see some of that white. It's a white background anyway, but it just adds a little bit more. And I knew I was going to use these puffy stickers, so it just adds a little bit more dimension to those layers. And I wanted a mixed title. I like to do mixed font titles, but I decided it would look best if I kept the same color in this case. So I'm just going to glue down all this stuff really quickly here, and then we're done with the layout. Oh, I actually do add a few more splatters. I felt like the title was kind of just sitting out there by itself. It didn't have a home. Same with the journaling. And so once I get this all down, I'm going to add, I think, a little bit more yellow around the outside of that, and a little bit more of the kind of greenish blue aqua color. Just some splatters like that, and it just makes it more complete, I feel like. And I added the date off camera. I also did add, I will admit, a couple of circle stickers that after I'd already started to take photos, I stopped and decided that I needed a couple. That's one of them right there. I think it's a chipboard sticker that I found in my stash. So thanks a lot for stopping by. There's a close-up of some of the Flair buttons. Thanks a lot, and I will see you in my next video.